Hello, good morning or good afternoon, wherever you may be. My name is Paul De La Garza with High Performance Business Solutions, and I would like to welcome you to the first installment of what's going to be a continuum of small snippets about the all and essentially the key elements of leadership. We start today with the elements of style, leadership styles, and the purpose of leadership. And again, my name is Paul De La Garza. I am with High Performance Business Solutions. And I have my contact information there so that as you begin to get information and if you would like to make contact with me, we will have this available at the end of the presentation. This presentation is going to be very, very brief. It's going to be about 10 minutes. And we're going to be covering a significant amount of material within those 10 minutes. And we'll start essentially with the styles and the purpose of leadership. You know, Stephen Covey talks about management is efficiency in climbing a ladder of success. Leadership determines whether the ladder is leaning against the right wall. So managers do the things that are right. Leaders do the right things. So we start with essentially style and substance. So substance is essentially what you're trying to accomplish, what you're trying to do, whereas style is how you go about doing it. And essentially what we're talking about here is that the style has two aspects, two dimensions to it. The personal side, which is essentially based on the character of the individual. And it's the demeanor, the manner, the approach that that individual has. And in some cases, it's somewhat one-dimensional. In other cases, it's really very vast because one of the things that you're going to learn today, or I should say, one of the things that you're going to be reminded of today is going to be the factor that for all practical purposes, leadership is predominantly situational. So styles need to be there, but they have applicability in accordance to the situation that the leader is facing. There's a gentleman by the name of Peter Norhaus who's written a number of books on leadership. And he talks about the leadership style from the standpoint of all of us approach the question of leadership with a unique set of beliefs. We have our own perspectives, our own approaches in terms about the nature of people and the nature of our work. Okay, so that is extremely important. However, it's also important for us to take into account that there's certain skills that are associated with the aspects of leadership and how style actually takes place. Let's talk about the interpersonal, the social perception, the emotional intelligence, and managing conflict. The effective approach as to how you're going to manage conflict have a very clear impact and definition on the style of that particular leader. And frankly, they're all essentially character rooted. The administrative aspect of it, of course, is skill oriented. So the competence, the managing of resources, and the leadership of people is something that you can acquire, and that's not necessarily style as much as it is a skill oriented approach that in some cases has a level of impact upon the style, but predominantly is more of a managerial approach as opposed to a leadership approach. And then, of course, the leadership approach is, frankly, from the standpoint of vision, how you're going to strategically plan and how you're going to solve problems. And this is one of the things that you're going to see in the future. And I hope that we will see you over and over again because I'm going to have a number of different things that are going to be made available about leadership and effective leadership. One of them is going to be the difference between management and leadership. As a matter of fact, that's the next one. And the leader typically is the one that has that vision, that strategic planning, that one that actually has to deal with the problems for which there's no clear answer. The manager is the one that really abides by a specific process and engagement, consistency, establishing the things that need to be done based on precedent, based on process, based on standards of performance. So let's talk about a couple of different types of styles that exist there. The two gentlemen by the name of Kouzes and Posner, you probably have heard of these two gentlemen. And they have what they call the 5 practices of exemplary leadership. And here they are. First of all, model the way. Essentially, it could be associated to the leadership by example. The second one is to make sure that you inspire to share a vision, that people really have a clear understanding of what that leader envisions in terms of the desired outcome or what the general direction is of a particular initiative. The third one is challenge the process. There's a concept that's called Kaizen. You probably have heard of it. It was invented by the Japanese culture, and it essentially talks about the process of continuous improvement. Well, the only way that you can actually accomplish that is by virtue of you challenging the process. The fourth component is enable others to act, which of course is a critical component of leadership, and for that matter of management, because clearly leadership and management does not mean that you are the chief know-it-all or the chief do-it-all. Effective delegation, which is going to be one of the installments of this leadership series, is a critical aspect of effectively really leading a particular team or a group. And of course, encouraging the heart, inspiring that the engagement has to be maintained continuously by that team by virtue of the inspiration that the leader provides. So this is one of the approaches that these two gentlemen have lined out in position that frankly is quite powerful. There are a couple of others. There's a gentleman by the name of Bill George who currently is a teacher in the Harvard School of Business in the actual School of Government, the John F. Kennedy School of Government. And he is a gentleman that has actually been with a number of companies in the private sector. And he proposes that authentic leadership is based on the premise that gaining followership is an outdated notion, completely an outdated notion. So here it is. Leadership starts with gaining the alignment, aligning a team of people behind the mission and the values of the organization. In other words, what are you about? What do you believe as a group? At Medtronic, which is where he was CEO, he aligned people around the idea of alleviating pain. That was the core purpose. And it was clear that anyone who didn't buy into that needed to go and work somewhere else. Now, here's the thing. Bill George, associated essentially 5 critical components to authentic leadership, which is his approach or style. Number 1, a clear purpose, which in his view derives passion. Number 2, values, behavior, what is really valuable. And this is where the leader needs to reconcile the values of the organization with the values of that team member. 3, relationships and connectedness, a critical component of leadership through effective communication. 4, self-discipline, consistency. You cannot be an effective leader one day and an ineffective leader the next day. You have to be abiding by a specific set of principles consistently so that people will, in fact, really follow the mission. Then, lastly, you have to have the heart or compassion that some people would call that the emotional quotient as well. Another aspect of leadership is servant leadership. And there's a gentleman by the name of Greenleaf who's written a couple of books, and it's the power of servant leadership. And he basically says that for all practical purposes, the leader emerges from someone who's first a servant. Now, the servant in this particular case is a state of mind because it is based on how the ethics and the empathy, the altruistic approach of that leader is what's prevailingly important. And here are the components of this servant leadership approach. 1, value people, develop people, build community, display authenticity, provide leadership, of course, and then, of course, share leadership. So valuing people and developing people. Notice that it's all about the team that is essentially going to be this principal point of focus for that particular servant leader. Now, I want to show you something very, very quickly. I'm comparing in this table Greenleaf's servant leadership with Bill George's authentic leadership with Kouzes and Posner's exemplary leaders. And one of the things that you're going to find is that these 3 styles are ever so similar. In other words, it's a reaffirmation of the same basic principles in terms of valuing people and developing people. Bill George basically looks at it as relationships, connectedness, values, and behavior. Okay, Kouzes and Posner talks about the model, the way, and so forth. So this is a really important component for you to have. Well, look, we've come up to our time. 10 minutes goes fast. And I have a great deal more of information that I would like to share with you about this. I'm going to be repeating this live transmission next week, but I would also like for you to know that it's going to be recorded in my LinkedIn page. Now, on the 4th of September, I'm going to be presenting the difference between leadership and management and how you have a person that has to actually delicately balance both, because they have to be at times leaders and at times they have to be managers. I sincerely hope that I will see you there. Here's my contact information. My name is Paul De La Garza. I am an executive coach and speaker, and I own a company called High Performance Business Solutions. My email address is there. If you can take a quick picture of this, you can find me on LinkedIn. You can access me directly, and you can go to my website, which is highperformance-solutions.com. I want to thank you for your time. I look forward to actually seeing you in upcoming installments of this coaching information. Thank you very much. Take care. Continue to lead and have a wonderful day.